So I'm actually in the middle of doing a coil right now. And it's for one of my classes that I have ADPR 375 Integrated Communication channels. And I am, my counterpart, my partner is Universidad Panamericana down in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. And Dr. Gabriel Partida and I have known each other since our doctoral program, and he's now the director down in the communication department. So we had chatted previously to incorporate COIL in a very diverse, focused class course that I was going to be teaching, but unfortunately we had to change schedules. So this is the class that I teach my students here at UT in how to, what I call is create the thread of really understanding audiences, specifically when there's so much diversity, but it's not just about ethnicity or race, it's all about, regionality, locality, age, and all of these other informational kind of factors that help us create messages. And at the same time, the class that my counterpart, Dr. Partida, was doing was about something very similar. And both of our classes consist of majors and minors from some sort of communication field. It could be journalism, it could be user experience, advertising or public relations, design, so on and so forth. So for this class, we wanted to come together, and the big focus of our COIL is to prepare both classes to become global citizens. And when we talk about internally and externally, this is very much so of what does their own worldview impact the research about their audience they're conducting, the type of messaging that they're putting together, to communicate with hundreds and thousands or even millions of people in the world. And so this is very much of how does their own influence or perspective then influence and help to create these very external messages. So we're actually at the fifth, we're about to start our fourth session, but kind of the way that we set it up was we wanted really for them to learn from each other on who they were, very kind of basic interpersonal, icebreakers of who they are, what do they like to do, and also what their majors were, kind of what their overall goal is. And then the second interpersonal kind of session that we had was very much of okay, so, what type of experience you've had in terms of your career, for them to kind of not just do the basics, but also okay, so we're taking this class for X reason. The third kind of session that we did was very much so in terms of we had each class do smaller teams that then they'll come together to form the much bigger team for them to work on this project. And at the end of the day is all about creating a plan, a communication plan for this very real brand for a very fictional purpose of the way that we set it up was we gave them 7 global companies that are very familiar, they're very, prominent and known both in Mexico, here in the US. And the whole concept or purpose is for them to come up with a communication plan using different communication channels to communicate with audiences in the US and in Mexico to technically promote the Christmas season. And a lot of these big companies are already known for, going pretty, hard on during the Christmas season. So here is when we actually started kind of prompting them to talk about, well, what do these messages look like? Why are they constructed in some ways to bring in kind of, this diversity and culture and regionality into play that, yes, everybody knows who Pepsi is, but why is it that some messages look a little bit different? And of course, we talk about these very foundational, cultural differences. And as of right now, we gave them that project, they're, working together, but we already started to see a lot of them. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screens. This is kind of my last point. But we already started kind of hearing from them about how they're becoming friends, and, requesting each other on social media and using all the different platforms. We primarily use Zoom for our sessions, and we use Slack just to keep track of the work and putting them in their private groups so that way they can work together. But they've been oh, we've been using Google Hangouts because we want to actually see each other. And also we've been, chatting through WhatsApp. So we kind of give them a little bit of autonomy in that way. But about a third of my students so far have been very, very vocal about most of them are about sophomores. So their first 2 years were in the pandemic. Everything was very virtual. Some of them really, really wanted to do study abroad and they couldn't do it. So in a way, some of them are like, we're grateful that we can do it here. We love kind of meeting other people, and other people who necessarily, had a mix of pre-pandemic, pandemic, and then now, like my juniors and my seniors, are very much of, I've never traveled outside of Tennessee and I've never really interacted with anybody outside of the US. So they're like, we really like this. So this is where we are right now. And we hope, I'm going to do a baby assessment after just to see how everything kind of flowed, but we're in the thick of it right now.